something weird, and like say like the soldier class, like the big burly guy in the plate armor or whatever needs like lightsaber and force resistant armor to make sense for why he doesn't get one shotted by force lightning, and like it and like the reality is in the Star Wars lore is that like a blaster shot is pretty powerful and it pretty much pierces any armor almost, right?
Yeah, as far as I know.
So yeah, so like it'd be pretty hard to balance it, and like Jedis are supposed to be able to deflect like every single like shot of a blaster and this and that, right? So, but I think that the way they're going for it's basically like WoW, where it's going to take 50 hits from a lightsaber to kill someone, if you're just auto attacking them, or it's going to take.
I think Jedis are essentially warriors anyway.
Yeah, like basically Jedis are warriors, and the consular is like a mage / healer, and the other guys like a hunter, and the soldier guy is he's like a tank. He's like a main tank, I guess, which is kind of weird, but
yeah,
it's like the melee guy is not a main tank, and the guy with a gun is the main tank, so it's kind of
it seems ranged tanks are actually really random.
I don't know how they're gonna do that, but I think even if they just made a game that was like imagine if they made it so it was like it was skill based, like Global Agenda or Savage or something, and they made it so everyone was just a soldier, like a normal soldier, but there was like different types of soldiers. Like you could be a medic, or you could be like a guy with a giant Gatling gun strapped on his chest. You could be the guy with like a big bazooka, or you could be like a pilot, like almost like a Battlefield type of situation, but like it was a MMO. So like all of a sudden you're like walking around on like this planet doing a quest with like 2 or 3 of your buddies, and you guys are soldiers, and one of them's a medic, and this and that, and all of a sudden like there's a whole bunch of like Sith people running over, like actual players, and then all of a sudden like a bunch of fighters like fly by and like drop a bunch of bombs, and like they're like attacking them, and like this and that. Like I think they could make a really awesome PvP game, and then like have like to be a Jedi you have to get like High Warlord and WoW.
Yeah. Thing. See, the only problem with that though is that it's very clear that because they want to go with this deep storyline kind of thing, it's very clear that they want a class-based, role-based game. They want you to go into a dungeon with your friend, him tank, you heal, whatever, and while there's really nothing wrong with that,
it just doesn't fit Star Wars.
Doesn't seem to fit Star Wars. It seems like it really is Star Wars in that MMO clone kind of feel. Like, I hate to have to use that term, and when I use that term, I don't really mean that they're cloning. I know World of Warcraft is, taking a lot of things from all the other games. It's a ridiculous argument, but by WoW clone, I kind of mean they're taking what works, what has made Blizzard billions of dollars, I'll assume billions. They're taking what works, they're taking what's proven popular, and the only thing they're really improving on is obviously the story aspect, the character development, the reputation. I'm assuming it's some sort of reputation system to figure out how people treat you in the game world. And I mean that's obviously a good innovation that works for the sake of role playing. I just don't know. I just think that within that WoW World of Warcraft kind of gameplay system, I just think that it's going to feel weird to do all these character interactions and deep character progression, and then after all that deep storyline and character progression, to just go into a dungeon and just be a main tank and a healer and a DPS. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like that's why, it just doesn't feel right. Like the classes, well, they do kind of fit. They seem out of place. Like they shouldn't be doing that. Like a smuggler shouldn't be like doing a dungeon. Like he shouldn't be farming dungeons for like that new blaster pistol. He should be like out, avoiding Imperial, blockades
and stealing stuff from like
stealing
caravans,
stuff, smuggling drugs and this and that. And,
although I'm sure there will be quests along that line, like class.
Yeah, but I mean,
quests, but
I'd almost like I wish they did the system like Eve, but not as like I don't like the ship combat on Eve or
we already talked about Eve.
But like Eve, as in like you're in outer space, you can kill them, they can kill you. Have at it, steal the cargo of his ship, but like a whole bunch of things like that. But also have like an aspect of actually like on the planets, like people running around doing shit, like so like kind of like what Galaxies kind of did, but make it a little bit more just a little bit like more set to the lore, like like a smuggler shouldn't be like in a dungeon like
Yeah.
crouching killing some Sith Lord or Sith like apprentice while you're killing the Sith Lord. Like that just doesn't feel right. Like he should be doing random shit in like cantinas or like taking random little jobs, doing this and that, and like a bounty hunter shouldn't be like running around in a dungeon with like a Sith Lord and some
Yeah,
other dude.
that's
Like
kind of what I meant. Like, it just seems like the StarCraft
just
universe.
too weird.
Yeah, it seems like it's not going to fit with the. I like to call them
Star Wars.
basic RPG mechanics.
Star Wars universe, the entire Star Wars universe just doesn't fit around the Dungeons and Dragons
Yeah.
class system that well.
Yeah.
It just feels too awkward. Like, like I'd rather have a game that's like Eve and Galaxies like kind of combined with like some savage like game mechanics and some other like awesome games, and like have this awesome like system where you feel really like you're actually a smuggler. Like you're like sitting around in like a cantina with two or three other like crew members or whatever, and all of a sudden you get like a quest, and you're like, okay, I have to go to this planet and pick up 15 crates of unknown stuff and bring it over here, and you have to go through like around border checkpoints, and all of a sudden like maybe there's like a quest for like the Sith people. They're like all of a sudden they have to scramble into their jets, but into their ships, and like hunt the smuggler that's escaping down, and if they kill him, they get like a whole bunch of credits and experience and stuff. So like they could have an awesome PvP oriented system where everyone's kind of like feeding off of each other, and like the soldiers are down on the ground like fighting each other like for like control points or like bases or whatever. And like every once in a while, like Jedi's will come down and Sith Lords will come down and fight each other. You know what I mean? Like a whole bunch of things like that, and then that would make it like feel a lot.
Yeah, but then we're talking about literally a completely different game. I mean, then we're almost getting into like a more polished version of Darkfall or something.
Well, yeah,
where it's like just kind of open world, and the quests revolve around the need of the players, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, that's why I'd like a good MMO to be if it was based around Star Wars. Like it just feels so much more immersive if the smuggler was doing what a smuggler would do in Star Wars. The soldier was doing what a soldier would do in Star Wars. Like it just feels way too. It's like Dungeons and Dragons. Like why don't I just go pick up any generic Dungeons and Dragons game and play that?
And then I made a joke to somebody, and it actually pissed him off quite a bit. But he was really hyped for Star Wars: The Old Republic, and I said, if you want to play Star Wars: The Old Republic, log on a World of Warcraft carrier, get an enchant on your weapon, and go run a dungeon, and then you're playing it. I realize that's obviously just a very cynical way to look at the game, but I mean that was just a joke, obviously. But to me, that's kind of how it feels like it's going to be. You're going to be running around doing your story stuff. You're going to be doing, and it's obviously going to be a different experience, but it's the core gameplay that's really. It's really going to have to be very good. It's going to have engaging encounters for it to really hold our attention and be something new.
Yeah.
Speaking of something new, actually, where do you think that MMOs are going to go in the future? Because we're seeing a common trend of just like really casual games, but we're also seeing titles come out like Darkfall that were just totally hardcore player driven. So, where is the middle ground? What do you think we're going to see as our big next game? Is it just going to be World of Warcraft for the next 5 years and that's it? Or, like, I don't know. It's really so tough.
Well, I mean, I think they're going to try to get games that are more like Darkfall going, because that's what everyone likes. Like say the Fallout MMO that's supposed to be coming out possibly. Like,
yeah, it's kind of up in the air, actually, but...
Yeah, like a world that's, like, completely open. I mean, you could be walking down the road, some dude just comes up from like on the side of a cliff, like 5-6 of his buddies, and they shoot you in the head and take your shit or something, right? And you end up respawning in some like that across wherever because you were cloned or something. I don't know how they're gonna make the respawn system, but you know what I mean, right? Like,
yeah,
like some system like that where like it's open world, It's like, really brutal. I mean, I'm not saying full loot or not full loot, but like, you can craft random stuff. Like, you take a pipe and a
Yeah,
rock,
well,
you
that's
some
kind
duct
of
tape,
actually
and
like Fallen Earth a little bit there. But Fallen Earth
yeah,
basically is a Fallout MMO, so that's kind of a given. But
yeah. So
yeah,
like, yeah, like something like that. Like, it's really open world. You can do like a lot of awesome, weird, random
open
shit.
world, player driven. Yeah,
And but there's still a lot of like a lot of NPCs, like 5 or 6 of your buddies, you guys can just randomly go into this camp of a bunch of like mutants or something, or some weird, like, or even like bandit, or like a bandit camp, and you guys go in and you kill them and you like loot their stuff and do all this stuff. But the only
yeah,
problem with that is that with an open world is it's going to create zones where people are going to farm stuff for items, and it's going to be hard to like infiltrate that close.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you how Darkfall did it. Darkfall had every single camp of enemies very spread out apart. Like, the game was fairly empty, but there were certain enemy areas that you could kind of map out in your head and leave notes of where they were. And there were certain enemies that you actually needed to kill. Like I said, it's a very player-driven game. People do things because they need it. If a guild needs to do a raid on another guild's city or castle or whatever, and they need the resources to fire their cannons and stuff, they'll go kill the enemies that drop that. No item in the game is useless. Everything has a use.
Yeah, and yeah, like some system like that, like that, or even like have a system where the NPCs will have like a random, like a bunch of tents set up, and one day they're there, then the next day they like move,
Yeah,
half across the
yeah,
map.
they were supposed to have that in Darkfall, but I don't think they've ever implemented it. They
Yeah,
were supposed to have dynamic
something awesome
NPCs.
like that, like some random situation that like one day they're there, and then like you can actually even like sit there and wait and watch them, and they'll like pack up their tents or something.
Yeah.
Something awesome like that. Like they'll pack up their tents.
But then we're talking like seriously next gen.
Yeah, yeah,
That
but
is the future. That's what we're looking for. We
yeah.
don't want the same stuff.
Yeah, like the games that they're producing now are just a quick way to make money, and they don't really do anything
We're
like
still running off the same formula as EverQuest and stuff. That is just years and years old, and it's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I like doing raids and dungeons, same as the next guy, but when the content's just too easy and it's just unenjoyable, I mean, you want to challenge, you want to progress.
After 10 years of World of Warcraft or EverQuest or Diablo 2 or Diablo or whatever game you've been playing that's an RPG, or even first-person shooters, after a while it's just like, okay, I've seen this.
Yeah, you've seen it all, really.
Aiming down the sight and shooting people. I've seen sprinting. I've seen bosses that have, or NPCs that have more health than usual, so they're special. I've seen NPCs that are named because they're special. I've seen like leveling up systems. I've seen talents. I've seen like crowd control skills. I've seen dots. I've seen healing. I've seen obviously you can't get away from all of it, but I'm just saying we've seen everything. We've seen it for so long, and not to be unappreciative of where everything's gone. It's getting a little bland,
And another thing to add to that is it's not that things are getting... It's not like these mechanics are bad. Like I said, I would still be playing World of Warcraft right now if the mechanics and everything had progressed the way I would have liked to see it go. They're obviously great mechanics. The thing is, it's just that the games that are coming out just aren't provoking enough to keep us wanting to play with these old mechanics. If a new game had come out, like if Warhammer had been successful, that would have been a good example, because it would have been a game that was familiar, used a lot of the old mechanics, but had just done something better, which, it turns out it didn't, but that's what everybody was hoping for. And you had made a point about first-person shooters also, and how, we've seen all the same things. And I hate to just cut a discussion short right there, but, I think I talked to you about it before, how the whole first-person shooter thing is really just, as an FPS gamer, it's really just, it's starting to kill my interest in the genre entirely. Like, I've started playing Starcraft Brood War and Starcraft 2 again, and I really don't even look back at shooters anymore, because it seems like every time I play a shooter, it's just Call of Duty in different makeup, because that's what's selling. And I don't really know how to describe it. I think shooters right now, for competitive gamers, outlook. I think shooters are